And so this is May webinar on Dynamics GP reporting presented by Tidestone. My name is Alicia Berglund, and I have with me Kelly Sintz, who is going to be telling you a little bit about Tidestone.
Hi everyone, good morning. So Tidestone Solutions, we are a consulting and GP, Microsoft Dynamics GP Silver partner in Portland, Maine, and we have been in business for a little over 20 years. We've been a GP Microsoft partner for since 1995. I'm sorry, what? Nothing. Oh. What we do here is we implement and support Microsoft Dynamics GP. Part of what we do for the GP community is run these webinars on a monthly basis, and we also do a quarterly GP user group. The user group is run by the attendees, and we choose the subject at the previous meeting, and it's open to anyone, whether or not you're our customer or not. And it's a great way for other GP users to speak and share and learn from each other. Tidestone, we deliver productivity tools and business solutions. We're very interested in helping you grow as a business. We are extremely customer focused. Our existing customer base, a lot of them have been with us for a long, long time. We pride ourselves on making our customers self-sufficient and showing them and advancing them in technology. We also enjoy having long-term relationships with all of our customers. When we partner with someone, it's really for the long term. We really want to have a long-standing partnership with you. We've been serving mostly local businesses, but we do have customers all over the country, and we are really... I just lost my train of thought. Sorry, I'm going to move on. I just lost my train of thought. Business process experts. So we are here to help you with selecting software, reporting, implementation needs, customization and development. We have a great development team here. Business process issues, automation of your tasks, trying to get you off of that lovely tool we all love, Excel. You know, from an accounting perspective, everyone loves to use Excel, but there's a lot of manual entry involved with using Excel tools and an ERP system, and we like to try to help you guys understand how to do it only once. You don't want to enter things twice. Training and support, we have a great support team here as well, and also our integrations with other software applications. We have a lot of experience with that, whether or not they are GP compatible or not. Our Darren, our technical director, is like the integration king, I like to call him. So he can pretty much make anything work. I think that's all I have to say.
Okay. I would just add that we do have a tech support line
yeah.
Monday through Friday where someone is always manning that line. So you can contact us that way. And I guess we'll just move on to the demo. So thank you, Kelly.
Thank you.
And so today's topic is reporting in GP, and we selected just a few tools that you can use with GP for reporting. There are several different tools. Three of the most popular are what we're going to look at today. The first is the Dynamics GP SmartList. It's a query tool within GP, whereas you can query data and export to Excel or to Word, manipulate the data. Very popular tool. Another reporting tool we're going to look at today is the Microsoft SQL Server Reporting Services, where those are a web-based report. You can view those in a URL and then again download into to Excel or save to a PDF. Very popular in the technology world today. And lastly, we'll take a look at the Dynamics Management Reporter, which is the financial reporting tool that comes with your GP solution. Typically, you'll be creating income statements, balance sheet, cash flow, trial balance, those types of GL-based reports, whereas you can drill back into the details of those balances. Okay, so the first item we're going to speak about is the SmartList in GP. And as I mentioned before, this is a very powerful query tool within GP, and it's organized by modules. So each module has its own predefined, what they refer to as favorites. So if you look over here on the left, you'll see that there are folders similar to, being on a network or whatnot, and they organize those by the GP module or the type of transactions that you're querying. And within those folders are the favorites or the named queries with saved filters and criteria that you have set up in those specific queries. And there are many queries that come with GP, and then you also have the ability to build your own, copy and save, share them with one user or the entire organization, build them by company if you have multiple GP companies. And the beauty of the query is that if you run a trial balance or a report from a subledger, you only have that data on paper. If you want details, you then have to take that data and go to an inquiry screen and kind of do your research that way. The beauty of the SmartList is that if you see an item in your query, all you have to do is either double-click or come up to the Go To button and dig deeper into that transaction. And many times it will bring you, from a GL transaction right back to the initial payables entry screen for that transaction that it's representing in the GL. So you can get right back to all of the details and see everything about that transaction. You can also customize SmartLists by adding columns, and you can also rename those columns. So the display name is the GP given name. Sometimes in your business you may not like the name, or it doesn't make sense for your business, so you can rename. If it says voucher number and you want it to say invoice number, you could change that display name. And down here in this slide you'll see that this is only a portion of the columns available for one specific SmartList. So each SmartList that you look at, you will have an opportunity to select from several columns to add to that query. There's also SmartList filters and criteria that you can add to your SmartList. And so if you look here, you have 4 different criteria that you can add to filter your data. The different filters that you have are listed here in the drop-down, so you can select those. And then you would simply add the value, and that would restrict your query. You also have, out of the box, SmartList queries are limited to 1,000 records, and you'll need to increase this if you know that your query is going to return 10,000 records and it's limiting at 1,000. You'll need to come in and change it here. However, there is a setting that I'll show you that you can change the default. If you're constantly changing this when you're building new queries, you can change the default and increase that to maybe 5,000, 10,000. I would encourage you not to change it to maximum records of all 9s in that field, because it can really slow down the query. So let's take a look in GP at SmartList. Okay, so here we have the SmartList query tool, and the way that I got to that, there's a couple of different ways. I have a shortcut in my toolbar that I've added, or I can go to my Microsoft Dynamics GP drop-down, and select SmartList from this list. So what we're looking at here is the folders that I referred to briefly, and they are set by the GP modules, and within the folders there are favorites. And what you may not realize are the favorites with the asterisks are those that come with GP. They're the pre-built favorites that Microsoft has provided with GP. And so I'll be using some of the pre-built queries to show you some of the functionality today. So I'm just going to go up here and I'm going to open up the financial and account transactions. And I built one previously. You can see there's no asterisks. I call it the AP reconcile. And so from here, what I've done, and you can either get to the search by double-clicking on the favorite or by going into the search button up here in the menu bar. I added a few filters here. I had a column name account number that I selected is equal to my AP control account. Down here I have the date, which is in between these dates. That's the transaction period that I want to look at. So it has filtered down the data in this query for me. So now I have this data that I can look at. Let me just expand this to the full screen. I can sort this data just by clicking on headers. So if I want to sort by amount, or if I want to sort by anything else in the query, I can just simply click on the header. Let's say that I'm curious about this transaction here. I can either use my Go To button, which is this little icon up in the upper right-hand corner. And if I click on the drop-down, I can go into Summary Inquiry, which is in my financial, or I can go into Detail. What I need to do here, what I want to do here is just double-click. And from here, I'm just in the Journal Entry query. And I can just continue to drill down until I get to the originating transaction. So you can see it was this transaction came from a purchase order with these line items. And I can look at all of the different details about this document. Now it looks like we have a question here. It says, can you create the query to prompt the user for a date range? Out of the box, no. The SmartList is really user-generated. You can set up reminders with SmartList, but it really does not prompt you for any data. So you would need to proactively do that. So let's say in this query I wanted to add a little more information, maybe the original transaction's description or whatnot. I would come up to the Columns button, and you can see these are the existing column names. I can put in here user who posted. I can put employee and change the name of the column. I can also add additional columns from here. And you can see there's lots of different transactions. One of the tricks to SmartList is the more you're using it, the more efficient you'll get at it and the more you'll find it useful. Sometimes the naming of the fields in this column window are slightly different than what you would think they would be. Sometimes the originating is what you're looking for when it's you're looking at a general ledger query and it's a payables transaction. You may want to see the vendor name. So a lot of times you'll see originating transaction. So where did it originate from? You can also reorder any of these by using the arrows to the right or remove anything. So if I click OK, it will now add the originating master name. So now I have the vendor name in this query. if I want to save that change to the query, if I went to another query now and came back, this would not save to my query. If I want to save this change for future reference, I would go under my favorite and click Modify. Modify really means save on that smart list. So now if I were to exit that query and then go back to it, it saved my change. Okay. So let's go back into that search for a minute. I have these two filters. I could add additional filters. At this point, I can only sort by one header at a time. If I wanted to have multiple sorts, I would come into the search window and then click Order By and select how I want to order this. So perhaps I want to order it by the date and then by the vendor name. So let's see, we have transaction date, and then I want to sort it by the originating. So now it will take those two into consideration with sorting. And so now it has resorted based on the date and then by vendor. So if I were to make the change and wanted to save it as a different name, I would come in under Favorites, and I could just put a new name in here. And so then I would add and favorite. So I think that answers your question, Nellie, about can you save it with a different name? And you most certainly can very easily. It's just a matter of putting a different name to the smart list. It's kind of like a save as. So that's really how you would copy a smart list. So if you have a smart list that is about 75% of what you want, and you want to add columns, but you don't want to make changes to a smart list that many users use, you can create that second copy. Whoops, my mouse is very sensitive this morning. Also, if you wanted to create a favorite and have it only visible to specific people or companies, you can come into the Visible To, and you have these different options. System would be any user, any company. Company would be this smart list is only visible in this specific company that I've created it in. User class, if you have user classes set up, or user ID. So it would be your user or your user class. It doesn't actually ask you which user class. It's based on the user creating the smart list. Okay. So then the next thing about smart list that's so nice, when you print reports in GP, they're not necessarily export friendly. There's a few that will export to Excel pretty nicely, but for the most part you have a lot of headers and different data that gets in the way of using Excel for those debits and credits. SmartList doesn't have that problem. For SmartList, if I have this query, the first thing I want to make sure is that down here on the lower left, I want to make sure when I select a query, before I export, that it says completed. Now in GP 2013, it does wait for the query to finish to export. In prior versions, it will start exporting when the query is not complete, so you may not have all of your data in Excel if you click export too quickly. So just ensure that your note down here, your field says completed. And it also, if you notice on the right, it does tell you what that query is. You know, it's giving you the first 1,000 records where the account number is the AP account number and the date is between these two dates. So you know, without going back into search, what this query is reporting on. So if I click Excel, it's going to export this and launch the Excel spreadsheet for me. And so here it is in Excel, and I can add formulas, I can add different sorts, different things like that very easily, and manipulate and report back. There is one change in 2013. Some of you may have noticed this. When you export to Excel, Excel defaults to multiple decimal places. There's no way to change that from GP. It's really Excel. So you do have to change your decimals and reduce them down if you don't want that many decimal places. If anyone actually knows of a way to get Excel to do that naturally, I would love to know that little trick. Okay, so I think that covers SmartList. I know it's just a brief look into the SmartList tool. It's pretty powerful. You can copy. The first item in a query is really what I refer to as kind of the template. What does it kind of look like out of the box without any filters on it? So you can kind of get an idea of what will I get for data in this query. You can start from that and create a new SmartList just by adding search criteria and then saving. Okay. So that finishes up our kind of brief look into SmartList. So let's go back to our slide deck. The next thing we're going to look at is Management Reporter 2012. Management Reporter, again, is a financial reporting tool, whereas you would build income statements, cash flows, P&Ls, balance sheets, trending reports. It's a pretty powerful tool. If you have experience with FRX, you'll find that Management Reporter has a lot of similarities to FRX. It's Microsoft's shift to, the different technology behind Management Reporter. The data is stored on the SQL Server. So the architecture consists of what they refer to as building blocks. And so if you think about building blocks and how you can put blocks together differently, that's kind of how you would build a report in Management Reporter. So the different building blocks, you can see them over here on the left-hand side. This is the navigation pane within Management Reporter. The highest level is your report. You've put all your building blocks together. So a report consists of a row and a column, and sometimes a reporting tree. And so let's just talk about those different items a little bit. So this is a sample of a row definition in Management Reporter. And the definition right from Management Reporter I've listed right on the screen. So it is one of the building blocks, and it specifies what rows you're going to have in your financial report. And so you can have an unlimited number of row definitions in Management Reporter and mix and match them with other columns and trees to create multiple reports. So let's say you have a P&L and you want to present it in different ways. Maybe you want to see current and year-to-date. You also want to see, a rolling 12 months. You also want to see budget and comparative. You build one row definition, and then you assemble it with different columns that lay out the data in those different ways. So the row is typically where you start building your report. What do I want to see in the report for data? And the rows can be used if you have multiple GP companies. You would set up the companies in Management Reporter, and the rows are available for each company. Today I'm assuming that all of your GP companies have the same GL account structure and GL accounts. You can work with different chart of accounts in the companies. It's a little more complicated, and I'm not getting into that today. So just so that you're aware, this is assuming that all of the GL accounts are the same across companies. The next building block is the column definitions. And this screenshot is a very basic column layout. The first column is what was that description from your row. It's going to pull the description from that row format. And then it's going to show month to date and year to date. So the column is really how do you want to present the data. And you can have multiple columns. It says in the help, which I pulled up here on the screen, that you can have up to 255 columns. I think the largest I've created in my years here has been 65 columns. It gets a little crazy. So there's the column definition. And then you have tree definitions. Now I will say in FRX you were much more dependent on trees because that's where you could pull from different segments of the chart of accounts. So perhaps you have a segment which is division or department. You can create reports very easily using the same row format, same column layout, and have individual reports by what it shows here is division. So you can see there's several different divisions in this sample, and I can set the report to print a summary of all of those combined. And this could be by company as well. It doesn't have to be within one company. This column could have different companies in each row. So I can have a summary of all of the tree components, or I can see individual reports, and we'll take a look at that. All right, let's go to our demo environment and take a look at Management Reporter. So Management Reporter, unlike FRX, has two components. One is the designer, which you see here on my screen. The other is the viewer. For today, I'm going to be showing you the reports. They're going to actually print to a URL. But there also is a viewer where you can have date and time stamped reports available to anyone you assign as just a viewer so that they can go out and get the reports once you generate them. You don't have to worry about emailing them to everyone or printing and distributing or saving up to your network. And it gives a date and time stamp so that the users are aware of what the time frame was when this was generated. Perhaps a journal entry was made to a month after the financials were printed. It would be obvious then to see the difference. So I'm just going to show you a couple of the different components to the report. Over here you can see report definitions. I'm on the report definitions tab here, and then we'll get into the different tabs below. But on this report definition, I'm actually looking at this report here, and you can see the name is Webinar Demo. I'm first going to show you a different report though. Let's look at the P&L summary by department. So if we look at this report, let's just take a quick look into the row definition. Similar to the screenshot I showed you. And so if you look at the first column, this is your row code. It's really a row identifier which you can use in calculations or refer to in the printing process. Description, this is what will show on your report. In the column, we briefly touched on the column description. This is the description that will show. You have a format code, whereas if you have totals that you want to present, or if it's just a description field. Way over here is what you have, what we've referred to as linked to financial dimensions. It used to be in FRX called linked to GL, but there's several different dimensions that Management Reporter can link to, analytical accounting being one. So financial dimensions captures that a little better than GL. So if we look here, salaries and wages, we've said, okay, the dimension we're grabbing is the natural account. And you can see there's a wild card with this question mark. What this is telling us is any natural account, so that the segments in this company are 3 long, division, account, and department. So what this row is telling us is grab any natural account that begins with 510. So if you're creating new GL accounts, this is nice because it will capture it without you having to come in and manipulate the report each time you add a GL account. So it's going to grab any natural account with that range. You can also set up ranges in a different way, which you can see here, and I'll just drill down a little bit further for you to see. We're saying we're going to pull anything between 6,200 and 6,300. If I use the ellipse here, I can see what that account number really is. If I were to take out the account number and do a search, I can see every natural account in the list. Okay. You can also link to something other than just the natural account. So you may have a report whereas you want to show divisions within the row. You could have this dimension noted here. So you might say, I want the division of sales on this line. So you could add that here. So it would pull anything with 300, 6130 in any department for that line item. I'm not going to save that change just so that I don't get errors on my report because I am using a tree with this report. Okay, so that's the row dimension, just kind of a quick peek in there. The column that I've set up is just a simple month to date and year to date, and the description is going to pull. And I have a reporting tree that is named by department. So it's going to give me a report, a summary, and then also I can look at each individual. They're referring to it as a division. I named it department. So let's just generate this report, and I'll show you how this report can be printed. So because I have a tree, I can determine at the time I'm generating the report what report I want to see. I'm going to select all so that I can show you. Actually, I need to change the date because it's sample data. Might not get anything with that date. Okay, so I'm just going to generate the report. I'm going to select all of the units from the tree. And it does take a minute to generate. What you see here is the queue status. And you can see that I was playing around with this yesterday, all of the times that it's successfully completed. Down below you see the status of the report. And when it's complete, I have checked a box that says launch this report as soon as it's generated. So it's launching to a URL, which is nice because you can publish these out and you don't have to have the report viewer installed. You can view it in a URL. So this is the summary of the report. If I want to take a look at the reporting tree, I can say I want to look at sales. So now I'm looking at the report just for the sales department. And from here, I can drill down and see a little bit more about that transaction. And depending on how I have this set up, I can drill down and get transactional information. So you can see here, these are the transactions that make up that balance. And then I can just simply go back and take a look at the department or the summary. I can also download this to Excel or other instances. So I might be working on it, and then when I'm done, I want to send that final to the viewer for those people who use the viewer. Or that may be where you save your date and time stamped reports is in the viewer. Okay. So let's just take a look at when we generate a report to the report viewer. So I'm going to go under Tools, Options, and I'm going to check off the box that says use the report viewer as the default viewer. and then I'm going to generate. You'll see when it launches, it will look a little different, the screen. And so now it's generating to the viewer. It's going to give it a date and time stamp of today's date and the time. It's also going to have the name that I assigned to it in the designer. And here's the report in the event viewer, in the report viewer. You can see it's the same report, just looks it's a little different presentation. It kind of looks like you've opened up Word. Over here on the left is the summary, the tree. So if we go to the sales report, it's going to open up my sales. I can look at different data. So it's very similar to that report in the URL. I can also add comments to these reports. If there was something that was, out of balance or out of the ordinary in a month, I could tag something and add a comment over here. And you can see now there's a little tag on that line item, and anyone in the viewer or in the URL can see the note on that line item. I remember back to my days of preparing the financial statements for the CFO and having to do a separate worksheet that identified this line item is high because of this, this is low because of this, we're over budget. And it's kind of nice here that you don't have to do that cover letter. You can just add the notes here, and they're easily visible. When you export to Excel, you can easily see those notes. So from here, let me just drill down a little bit again. I can go right to Dynamics. You see the little icon up here? I just need to have GP open. So if I click on Drill to Dynamics, it's going to open the window for me. And here I am in that GL account number, and I can get more details about the period if I need to. Very easy way to get the data you need. So let's just take a look at a different type of report. Let's look at the webinar report that I created. This one is built a little differently, but I'm still going to be reporting by department. I'm just going to be reporting in a different way. So let me show you the column. You can see I'm showing my departments in one report, but they're in different columns, so they're side-by-side reporting. I'm doing that by using the dimensions. I'm not using a tree on this report. I'm simply coming down to the dimension filter within the column definition and selecting my dimension from the dimensions list. So for each column that I'm presenting, I've selected a different division number. This is 200, this is 300, 400, and so forth. Then I've added a total column to total all of those departments. So it's reporting the data a little differently than the last one. So now I'll generate this report. And what will happen is you won't see the tree like before because we're not using a tree. You can see tree type is none. It will automatically generate that one-page report, or two-page. It might be a little longer than one page. But all of the departments or divisions are from left to right across the report. So you can kind of compare programs, departments, divisions, even companies. If you have multiple GP companies, you can do consolidated company reports and then break them out into different companies. There it comes. It's just taking its time for us. Okay. So I did not set this up in a landscape, so it's looking a little funny. I could change that. But you can see that it's reporting across the from left to right. And I can see all of the data. I can drill down into the data just like in the other report and get more information based on what my settings are in the report. So it's reporting from left to right. And I can go to the end of the report and get my totals. You know what? I didn't change the date of the report, so you're not seeing any data for the other departments. Let me do that. And let me go to page layout and make this landscape. Let's try that and see how that looks. So now we should see a little bit more information on that. So there's a lot of things you can do in Management Reporter. We're really just touching on a few things today. At any time, if you have questions or would like training, you can just give us a call. We're happy to set that up. We can do it remotely. We can do it on site, whatever works for you. And so here you can see side by side the different reporting, the different departments reporting on one report. This is a very basic one. You can get very fancy with colors and shading and all of that. So from here, I can export this to Excel. And I will say open the workbook after exporting. And there it is in Excel. One thing it doesn't do at this time, and I'm hoping it's in the next release, is that it doesn't bring over your calculations. It really just brings over the value. So for example, in your total columns, it's a value. It's not a sum. So if you make changes, it will not change your totals. You'll have to do that manually. Okay. All right. I don't see any questions about Management Reporter. So I think at this point, looking at the time, we should move on to the SQL Reporting Services reports. So these reports with technology are becoming very popular. GP comes with a standard list of SQL Reporting Services reports. And you find those by going to your navigation pane in GP. And you'll see over on the left, Reporting Services reports. And it will show you a list of all of those reports available. And there's some nice ones out there right out of the box that I'll show you. So you can generate them from right within GP just by marking the report and clicking View. What I'm going to show you today is the reports that we've already set up, and we have them actually in a location on the reporting server. So I'm going to go to the URL, and I'm going to go into my sample company. And these are all of the different reports that are available out of the box. So if we go into any of these, and I'll start with the financial, these are the reports that are available. So you might want to take a look at these. Typically, end users will launch them from GP because that's just the easiest way to find them. Let's take a look at the trial balance. So you can see that I have some filters available. It's not a historical year. And I select what year I want. And then what account number. It's very similar to the trial balance within GP. The filters just look different on this window. It's not the prettiest window, but it works very well. So I'm going to sort this by account. Oops. Now I just click View Report. And the nice thing about this trial balance is that you can easily export it to Excel. Trial balance is one of those you can't really do very well in SmartList. And the export report works okay, but you do have to get rid of those headers on each page break. So here I can see my report right here on the screen, very easily generated. I can save it to Excel or PDF or a Word document, any type of format that I want. And then I can open it. And it easily sent the whole formatting perfectly to GP. And then I can edit or add details, anything I need to do, or do some reconciliations right from within Excel. So let's go back here. I just want to show you, there's also, if I go back to my reports, what we tend to do is we take what comes out of the box. We ask you to look at those and say, okay, do any of these meet your needs partially? Chances are there'll be some reports that meet all of your needs for that reporting purpose. But chances are there'll be some reports that give you maybe 80% and you'd like to see it in a different format. That's where we come in and we will help you to customize these reports. So this employee pay history, what we did with this report, excuse me, whoops, sort by employee. What we did is we took this report, it was a detailed report, and we added some summary to it. So you can see this is the employee, and before we added these summaries, you saw every employee listed this many times with all their different pay codes. So we added this little summary tool so that for each employee, it's summarizing. And from here, you can export this to Excel, and it will retain those summary functions. So a lot of things we can do with these SSRS reports, easily access. It is different security from GP, so that if you want to have access for your users, you just need to determine, are they going to have access to the payables, receivables, payroll, whatever module, and then that security is set up within the SQL Server databases. There's also another one I'd like to show you that I'm going to launch actually from GP, and it's a sales report. And it's really a KPI, so let's see if I can find that easily here. So if I click View, this isn't a text report but a graph. And there are a lot of different graphs that you can find that are pre-built in the SSRS reports. So you can see for this graph, it's year-to-date sales by state, and then there's a color key down here that says, now my manager can easily say, oh, well, sales are doing better, and this could be items. It doesn't have to be a state or whatnot. There's a lot of different things you can do. I can see that this state has a lot of sales, and if I drill down into it just by clicking on it, it's going to break it down by the customers and the total number of sales. Okay, and I can also save this to Excel. I could print from here if I wanted to. You might like to export it and manipulate it and then print it, but it will print very nicely right from here. Let's just go back to my slide deck. I kind of skipped that when we went into SQL reporting services. We did take a look at the original SQL Server reporting services and the file folders that are available to you with the pre-built reports. And again, you have access within GP, or if you have the URL, you can access them that way as well. It's security based out of SQL, but you do have to have access to the module in GP to see the list of reports available. This is a screenshot of the trial balance we took a look at that shows you all of the different filters that you have available. And each report, the filters will differ based on the information that's going to be presented. You can save it to Excel or a PDF or CSV, a lot of different options there. And they're customizable. So we took this report and we just very quickly added some functionality to summarize data by employee. So if there are reports that you like and you just want them tweaked, kind of a common term that we use, modified a little bit to meet your needs, we can certainly do that. That's where we come in. The templates that Microsoft releases are good. You know, they work, they're reliable. You just may like something a little different because every business is different. Okay, so at this time I will open up for any questions that anyone might have. I will take you all off mute, so if you could just refrain from keying on your keyboard or having conversations, that would be good. And if you have a question, just please speak up or send in a chat message. Shall I assume there are no questions due to the silence? Okay, so I will just assume there are no questions. Just wanted to remind you of a few upcoming events. The next webinar is scheduled for June 18th. We will have one of our ISVs that we work with quite a bit, Professional Advantage. They're going to be presenting collections management. If you're on Business Ready or perpetual licensing, you already have this most likely. It's a nice tool for tracking, you know, past due receivables, sending out communications and things like that. So I will be sending out communications about that webinar. And tomorrow we're going to be in Boston at Brewbound. We have a nice add-on for GP for breweries. I don't know if anyone in the group is with a brewery. It doesn't look like it. Well, actually, Erin's with a brewery. She's actually going to be implementing that product that I just referred to. So thank you all for attending, and I look forward to having you attend again. Have a great day.